friends. Happy Wednesday. It is so wonderful to see you, and I am really excited about today's mini workshop. If you're new here, welcome. We meet here live every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're a pretty fun bunch, but if you ever miss us live, don't worry, there is a podcast version, an audio only podcast version of this that comes out a few days afterwards. So if you have to catch us on the run, you can always find us there under Coffee with Kim on any of your podcast channels. I wanted to say a big hi today to Jim and Alexandra and Ryan coming in from South Africa, Martin joining us from Leeds in the UK, Barbie from Illinois. If you haven't caught the drift from Ryan and Lance and Marisol, the party is over here in the chat. Make sure to say hi. We'd love to know where you're coming in from. Perhaps what is in your cup on this fine day. I'm joining from Austin, Texas, and I'm so excited that you could join us for today's mini workshop. My goal today is to pack in as much helpful information as possible. But while I am pumping out information to you, I want to make sure to catch any questions, concerns, comments that you might have. So again, that's what the chat is for, my friends. If you have a question, if there's something that you're like, this doesn't make sense, or what about this, Kim? Interrupt me. I will answer. If I don't answer, maybe somebody else will answer because we're all smart people around here. So somehow your question will get answered by me or somebody else who's joining us. But it's a really smart group. I'm excited you're here. So without further ado, let's dive on into what we're going to be doing today. My favorite part is the agenda. So check. We've already met each other. Again, I'm Kim Kalp. It's so good to see you. And please let me know who you are so I can say hi in the chat later. We are going to go over, first and foremost, in this mini workshop, how we are going to find your area of expertise so that when you are sharing online, you are sharing from a place of knowledge and strength and stuff that you feel like you have like a pretty good handle on. So that's going to be helpful for us to figure out. We're also going to go over some tips if you love written content. If written content is your jam, we're going to go over some tips that will help you with that and some visual examples. Same thing with video. Maybe you're more into video than you are written. Honestly, that's usually hard. Most people are like, I hate video. So if you're like, oh gosh, Kim, the thought of video is that's a no. That's okay. You can take notes maybe for later or when that video bug bites you. Then we're going to go over some big mistakes, some things that I see people making over and over. And I'm like, no, don't do it. So we're going to go over some mistakes that I see when people are trying to share online, share their knowledge base. But first and foremost, I want to talk about why this is important. This is important for two reasons. Number one, more and more of our life is becoming digital. It's becoming online first. So we would like to think that if I were to meet Danny or Mary from Milwaukee for the first time, it would be when Mary enters the room and I stick out my hand and Mary sticks out her hand and we shake on it. We say, nice to meet you. But unfortunately, it's not the way it goes anymore. Why? Because we have these crazy things. And when we have our phones, we tend to Google people before we meet them. So we are prejudging people before we even get a chance to meet them in person. So all the more reason why I would love for you to start sharing your knowledge online so that when people find you, when they Google you and go, Christina from Austin, Texas. Like, what's up with Christina? They're going, Christina's posting some pretty smart stuff lately, or, oh, she's sharing some really interesting articles, or, oh, I love her point about this podcast. Do you see what I'm saying? So they're getting to know you before they even meet you. And I think that is becoming so important as we turn into this digital first society. And number two, as you can see, who's joining us today, whether it's Andrew from Chicago or Danny from Lebanon, we have joined a global network. We are global, everybody. LinkedIn is global. Jobs are global. I don't have to tell you about remote work. My guess is you've experienced it or you know somebody else who has. So now more than ever, sharing our knowledge online is going to become more and more prevalent because you might not be in an in-person meeting sharing your knowledge in person. You might be sharing your knowledge online. And how are you going to do that? So those are the top two reasons, but let's dive on in just so I can get a temperature check, kind of a check on everybody who's joining us in the room live. And again, if you're listening to this a few days later on a podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn a few days later, you can just kind of think about this to yourself. But I would love to know in the chat, how often are you posting on LinkedIn? There's no right or wrong answer here. So you could say, Kim, I'm posting once a week. You could say, Kim, I've posted about once a year. And when I say posted, I mean not only you creating the post, but maybe you reshared an article, maybe you reshared a post from your company page or your friend's page. So we got Sam coming in saying, not enough. the answer is not enough. Chris is saying once a week. Same with Christina, about once a week. Every day. Wow, James is crushing it. Marisol, very rarely. And Christopher is probably the most common answer, which is very little because I am scared to death. I know. And that is what we are going to try to battle today, Christopher. We are going to try to make sure that you are not feeling that fear and not feeling that overwhelm of, oh my gosh, I just don't even know how I'm going to do this. But we're getting, a lot of rares. Stan and Anna, a lot of rares. And Andrew's asking, do comments count? For now, let's say comments don't count. Let's say that these need to be original posts or original reshares. But it seems like we have like a pretty wide array in here. And that is perfect because we are going to be going through a little bit of everything when it comes to what does that actually look like when we are sharing. So first and foremost, before we start talking about how much to share, what we have to figure out, what are we sharing? I've been in a lot of small coffee shops with friends. I've been at dinner parties where someone says, gosh, Kim, I just don't even know where to start. I hear you. I understand that I need to post online. I get it, but I just don't even know where to start. That's probably the most common, I don't want to say complaint, but just sort of struggle, hump that I hear from people when it comes to posting online. So let's dig into this, really finding your area of expertise, where you're shining, where you're really doing your best. It is going to be three things that we were going to need to consider as we think about this question. So number one, what do you know a lot about? Right? What do you like? If someone says, I'll use myself as an example. If someone says the topic of entrepreneurship, I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years. So I'm like, oh, how much time do you have? I can talk for hours. So what is just something that you know a lot about? It could be marketing. It could be sales. It could be computer software. It could be Excel. It could be AI. I don't know what it is for you, but what is something that you just feel like, man, someone could drop that subject area and that word, and because of your expertise, your past jobs, your internships, your experience, your workplace know-how, that you're just like, yep, got it. I could talk for an hour all about that. So jot that down. If you have a pen and paper close by, just kind of like jot down what that is. Or again, if you're listening on podcast, maybe just keep it in your mind. What would that be? What would those subjects be? And then once you answer that question, we're going to move on to the second one, which is, what do people ask you about often? What is something that people come to you and say, hey, I know you're really great at XYZ. How do I use Excel? How would I use Canva? How do I go live on StreamYard? How do I go live on YouTube? How do I go live on LinkedIn? How do I post on LinkedIn? So, what are some questions that people ask you a lot in the office? It could be, how do I close a sale? Or how do I get the images into the marketing presentation? Or how do I make the graphs in the sales presentation? What are questions that you feel like you're kind of getting over and over again? And it can be from different people. And it can be people that aren't even at your workplace. Could be at dinner parties where someone says like, "Yeah, I know Leslie knows a lot about those apps. Let's ask Leslie about apps." So it could just be something that at a dinner party someone's like, "Yeah, they know a lot about that." Again, if you have a pen, write this down. If you're listening, just kind of store that in your mind. What do people ask you about a lot? And then last but not least, what do you actually enjoy talking about? And I think that this is important because a lot of times people might ask us a question over and over again, how to put data into the sales presentation or how to add images to the marketing presentation. But the truth of the matter is, like, we don't like talking about sales or we don't like talking about marketing. So what is something that you honestly like enjoy talking about? So I enjoy talking about marketing. I enjoy talking about entrepreneurship. I enjoy talking about LinkedIn and how to optimize this awesome platform. Those are subjects that I genuinely like, the smile crosses my face, like I am ready to go. Once you write down that third part, what do I enjoy talking about? We are going to put that all together because what you should be sharing about, it should overlap all three of these circles. So again, I'll use myself as an example and I'll use LinkedIn as an example. So I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to LinkedIn. I've been using the platform. I'm an instructor on LinkedIn Learning. I am very familiar with the team at LinkedIn. I have a lot of historical knowledge when it comes to LinkedIn. I also get asked about LinkedIn a lot. How do I use this? What do I do? Can you help me with this? Which hopefully we'll get to some questions as they come up here. And then last but not least, again, I actually enjoy talking about LinkedIn. So I'm like, okay, like this sounds good. I really enjoy talking about LinkedIn and talking about how to help people leverage this platform. So things that I could share about online could have to do with LinkedIn, just using that. And again, that's a very simple example for myself, but what is that for you? What is the combination of those three areas? I know a lot. People are asking me about this all the time. And I actually enjoy talking about it because that is going to be wherever that intersects is going to be so key. And once we find that golden sweet spot, maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's AI, maybe it's sales, maybe it's finance, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's accounting. I don't know what it is for you, but it's something. It's something in there. Creative writing, it could be anything. So once we find that, it's really important to start sharing our knowledge on that subject. And it's important for a couple of reasons. One, as we mentioned earlier, it's important to show other people like, hey, Kelly actually knows what she's doing. Or like, hey, Gil's posting some smart things over there. So it gives other people the awareness of like, okay, we got some good stuff going on here. But most people don't realize this because it's sort of like the sneaky thing that most people don't realize because it just started happening, I want to say maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. A lot of content, pretty much all the content on LinkedIn, except for images. So like if you post a picture on LinkedIn, but if you post any words on LinkedIn, so that could be words in your profile, words in a post, words in an article, words in a newsletter, that is getting crawled by Google. I'm going to say it again for my people in the back. What you post on LinkedIn in word form on the keyboard, that goes into the Google crawl system and gets crawled. I took a screenshot here for you to see, but I know just as an example, that I have written an article on LinkedIn, and the title of the article is 4 mentors that you need to have right now. And in the LinkedIn article, I go into who those 4 mentors are, why you need them, where you can find them, etc. Now, if I go into Google, www.google.com, and I Google my name, Kim Kalb, and just the word mentor, not anything else than the word mentor, Google has crawled LinkedIn so extensively that the number 1 search result that comes up on Google is my LinkedIn article. Number 1. And so I show this screenshot and I talk about this screenshot just to show the power of what you put into LinkedIn. Google is crawling and Google is shooting up to the top of your search results. So again, I want people to see how smart you are. I want people to see that you're flexing your, know-how and your muscles. And so when we do that, not only are we flexing on LinkedIn, show my muscle right here, but we're also flexing on Google. We're flexing both LinkedIn and Google all at once. So it's really important just for not only LinkedIn, but Google as well. And so, by the way, I know that I'm like packing a lot into this mini workshop, but I also know that because I got some notes earlier of people saying like, Kim, I can't stay for the whole workshop, or my boss is calling me into a meeting. So I hear you. I know that people are like in and out. If you can't complete this whole workshop, number 1, you can go listen to it later on any podcast network. So you can listen starting next Tuesday, or you can watch on YouTube or LinkedIn when the live broadcast is done. Or I have a lot of ors, lots of ways. I compiled a bunch of tips about sharing your expertise online. They are at this QR code. If you are on a computer and you can see me right now, you can scan this QR code and it will take you to more tips about sharing online. So you can kind of watch those videos later on your own time when your boss isn't calling you into a meeting. So again, don't panic. I got a lot of people who are panicked. We're not going to panic. If not, send me a note afterwards and I will send you a video link to all of those videos as well, because I want to make sure that you have them. So let's hop in. By the way, again, I know I said to ask questions as we're going. I want to make sure that we're getting to those questions as we go. So I got a question here. How do you share comments in your video presentation? I assume you mean like this, like a video, like a live. If that's not what you mean, please clarify the question in the chat and I'll go deeper. But in terms of this live video, I am able to share these questions using a program called StreamYard. So that is the program that we use. It is free. That's why I like it. I always tell people if it's free, it's for me. There are some things that didn't leave from my college days. Like if somebody had free pizza or free beer, I was there. So that is a program that we use so that we can add questions to this live video. But if that's not your question or I didn't quite answer it, add in another one. That's why the chat's there. So let's get into tips for written content. I know a lot of people really love written content, so let's dive into them. Number 1, hook the reader from the start. Hook the reader from the start. This is something that I always capitalize on. If you've seen a movie, or if you've seen Netflix, or if you've seen a movie trailer at all in the last couple years, you know that first scene, that first line of, Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, it's made to get your attention. It's made to go, what happens next? Or when you are watching that first Netflix trailer for that new show that everybody's talking about, that first line, that first punch is like, why? Because Netflix wants to draw people in. They want people to watch the whole show. So your posts, you can think of yourself as a little mini Steven Spielberg, right? Your own James Cameron. You're creating your own little Avatar film. You want to hook people from that first line. So you want to make that line really powerful. Next up, when it comes to written content, less is more. Less is more. Oh my goodness. I don't have to tell you, you already know that people's attention spans are about this big, very, very tiny. So don't make people read a lot. Pack a powerful punch. A tactic that I like to do, I would welcome you to try this yourself, is I write a LinkedIn post or I write a LinkedIn article. I just get it all out. I write it all. And then I go back and I proofread it 2 times. The first time I proofread it, it's for like spelling, grammar. I misspelled this word. I need a comma, etc. Then the second time that I go back through it, I try to cut as much as humanly possible. Like I tell myself, can you get this down to 3 words? I mean, obviously you can't, but in my head, that's what I tell myself. Like, what words can I get rid of? What are fluff words? Let's distill this down to the actual kernel of a tip or a tactic or my takeaway on something. So try to do that as much as possible. Edit, edit, edit. Less is more. And then last but not least, this is really something that I see people miss out on a lot, is give readers an action item. Give readers an action item. It could be as simple as, what do you think? And invite people to respond in the comments. It could be, here's the full article. Maybe let's say you summarized like your 2 top takeaways. Here's the full article. I wanted to provide a visual example because I'm a visual person, but I will talk you through this example again if you're listening on your podcast later. So this example, I actually pulled today because I wanted it to be very timely. It was in my newsfeed, and it is from a man named David. And he does a written content post, and it does all 3 of these things so brilliantly. So number 1, hook the reader from the start. The first line of his post says, I had dinner with Charlie Munger. Now, if you don't know who Charlie Munger is, he's a very famous investor. He's kind of like a Warren Buffett, very, very famous. So the fact that this person had dinner with them, talk about a hook line, talk about an instant, like, wow. It'd be like saying, I had dinner with Dolly Parton, or I had dinner with Paul McCartney. I mean, just very like, wow, you had dinner with that person. Then the next line says, I spent over 3 hours with him. Now I'm really hooked, because not only did you get to have dinner with him, you spent 3 hours with him. So you bet your booty that I'm reading the rest of this post, right? Because man, did this guy David really hook me with those first 2 lines. I am in. Next up on less is more, he goes on to say, in typical Charlie fashion, he gave me an important lesson that I broke into 4 simple ideas. First of all, I love the word simple. And second of all, I love that there's 4. That is a fast, easy takeaway for me to grasp onto. So again, less is more. I'm sure at a 3-hour dinner, he probably had 17,000 takeaways or 50 stories that he could tell about the dinner, but he distilled that dinner into 4 simple ideas, 4 simple takeaways for us who were, we weren't at the dinner with him. So that's very strong. And then last but not least, he gave readers an action item. So once he lists the 4 tips, he says, I made a podcast about what I learned having dinner with Charlie and rereading the Tao of Charlie Munger. You can listen to it here. So again, he knows that at a 3-hour dinner, you can't, cram everything into one section. So he says, don't worry, I also made a podcast version. And I also love what Rachel points out here, because as you're looking at the visual example of this, David does a great job of using spacing. Again, when he's numbering the 4 ideas, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's very easy for us to see. It's very clear in addition to being concise. So he has a lot of things going for him. And as Cindy says, I prefer white space when reading, and I think a lot of us do, and that's just the nature of how our eyeballs work. So David also uses some hard returns and really utilizes some white space and spacing out his 4 ideas and the content that he took away from Charlie. So again, I think it's really strong when we have all 3 of those things in place. And again, I wanted to give that visual example because sometimes when I talk through it with people, they're like, but what do you mean? Like, I can't see it. So I I know that as much as some people like Cindy love white space, we also have people like Christopher who's like, I hate one sentence paragraphs. I have a hard time reading something like this. What does everyone think? And I would say again, and we're gonna get to this later in the presentation. So Christopher kind of beat me to it. There's no right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? You have to test, try it on yourself. Maybe you do a couple like that, even though you don't really love it, see how it does. Maybe you do a couple the way that you like, test it out, see how it does. Nobody knows the people that you're connected to but you. Nobody knows your audience but you. Nobody knows the people in your orbit but you. So again, try different things. Don't feel like, well, I have to do it the way Kim told me to do it, or I have to do it the way this guy David just did it. Don't worry, try it on your own, see what feels good. And I give this advice to Christopher and everybody else who is posting something online. Christina also asked, how important is it to post your own thoughts when you repost something on LinkedIn? I'm so happy that this was brought up because it is of the most paramount importance. I'm going to give you an example that every time I get it, or give it rather, it seems to really click with people. So hopefully it really clicks with you. If we were at dinner, the two of us, or maybe we're with a group of friends and we're having dinner and you say something like, hey, did anybody see the new Netflix show? I'm forgetting what it's called, Athlete 100 or something like that. And somebody says, yeah, I saw it. And then just nothing. Normally, a normal response is the rest of the group goes, well, what do you think? What, is the show good? Is it worth it for us to watch? What's your favorite part? Who's your favorite character? Again, if you're at a dinner, you're giving your 2 cents on that Netflix program or on whatever it is. So I always tell people when you're resharing an article, it's kind of like someone saying, did you read the article? And you just saying, yeah. And then there's an awkward silence. Okay, well, what'd you think of the article? What were your favorite takeaways? Would you recommend it? So I always say, if you're going to repost something on LinkedIn, if we're going to reshare something on LinkedIn, absolutely add your opinion. Why are you sharing this? What are the takeaways? Why should other people read it? Who should read it? So if it's an article about getting into colleges, write mandatory reading for all graduating high school seniors. Again, just who should be reading this? Why? What are the takeaways? So I'm glad we went over that. Next up, video content. I know this is sort of like a hate-love. Some people are like, oh, I hate video content. And then other people are like, okay, I could give it a go. So this is for my latter group who's video curious, kind of into it. First and foremost, good lighting. I don't want to say that one of these is good and one of these is bad, but the picture on the left is really well lit. And I think that sometimes people say, well, Kim, I don't have a professional setup. I don't have something where I have ring lights or any sort of other thing. You can see in this video to the right, it is simply somebody holding a camera. But I want you to notice something in this picture to the right. If I asked you, what direction is that person facing from a window? So if I told you, it's kind of like a little riddle. If I told you there's a window in this room, where do you think the window is? Option A, the window's in front of him. So that person's eyeballs are looking out the window. Option B, the window is to the left or to the right of him. So again, the window is kind of on the sides. Or C, the window is behind him. Now, again, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see this, so I'll give you a little cheat. Behind this lovely gentleman is pictures. So we kind of know the window's not behind him because we see a wall with pictures on it. So we kind of know that C is not the answer. We know that it has to be either A, he's looking out the window, or B, that the window is to his left or to his right. And as Gil pointed out, The answer is indeed, it is to the left or the right of him, or as Martin says, it is to the left as we see it. And you can tell that because you can tell that the sunshine is coming in. So this is my little tip and trick. If you want to do good lighting, but you don't want to mess with a ring light and you don't want to mess with any sort of professional lighting, all you have to do, it's very simple, is make sure that your eyeballs are looking out the window. So again, my window is right here to my left, your right, my left. If I were to be recording something, I would want to make sure that my eyes are looking out the window. And then this would be the phone recording me. So you just make sure that your face is to the light. You put your face to the light. It's a very easy trick. But if you're going to do that, number one, good lighting is a must, because if you have the light behind you and you're looking like Darth Vader, unless you're going for something scary, nobody wants to watch that. So that's just a no. Next up, you want to have energy. If anybody has ever heard the famous saying that you look 10 pounds heavier on camera, I always joke that I like to remix that and say that you look 10 times more sleepy on camera. So if we were talking in a coffee shop right now, I would probably be talking to you like this, very normal, very conversational, informal, low key. However, I'm on video, so everything needs to be a little bigger, a little bolder than maybe you would in real life. Because again, the camera, I don't know, does this like trickery where it just kind of zaps you of your energy. So you really want to make sure, I know when I was first starting out with video, I thought I look ridiculous. I'm going to look like a clown character. But I promise, I don't know what it is. There's something about video that you don't look ridiculous. I know in your head, you're like, I'm going to look ridiculous. Try it out. Do like a 30-second clip your way and a 30-second clip with like a bigger smile and bigger gestures and more energy. And you tell me which one looks better. That would be like a little homework assignment for you. And then last but not least, the shorter, the better. I don't have to tell you that I have seen some awesome LinkedIn videos. However, they were about 4 minutes long. And listen, 4 minutes, I know it seems like, oh my gosh, 4 minutes, Kim, no time at all. People don't want to watch 4 minutes. I know, don't kill me, but I'm just telling you, they don't want to. So even Cindy is asking, what is the standard length of time for a video on a LinkedIn post? I haven't tried video posts yet because I get concerned about the duration of it, making it micro, timely, and relevant. I will tell you, Cindy, what I started with. Just again, this to me is like a good first beginner step. I told myself 60 seconds or less, but 60 seconds. And I was only allowed to give one takeaway or one tip. Now, if you're really comfortable on video, then sure, you can shoot a video that's giving your top 3 takeaways from your dinner with Charlie Munger, or your top 5 tips for LinkedIn, or your top 2 sales tips. But I think when you're just starting, again, I always say like, we want to reach for the stars, but we want to be realistic. So I would start with 1 tip and 60 seconds. That gives you enough time to say, I think the most important thing in sales is sending a thank you note. And then maybe you'd say, and send it not in email form, but a handwritten note. That's a silly example, but you get my idea. So or I just read the 36-page Instagram press release, and here's the one tip that I took away from it. Again, just like one tip, 60 seconds. I think that's a really, really strong place to start, because I think anything more than that, people get really in their own heads and really overwhelmed. Like, oh, okay, I got to give 3 tips, but I can't go over 90 seconds. It's like, just don't worry about that. Get really comfortable on the JV team before we move up. And I will tell you again, I'll share for myself. I did 60-second videos for a full year. You can go back, by the way. It was 2019, 2018 when I started doing it. I would do one a week. They'd be on Mondays and they'd be 60 seconds. And I gave one tip. And that was my cadence every week. Mondays, one tip, 60 seconds, until I got really comfortable with, okay, now I don't feel like I'm going to freak out. So that was really important to me. I think it'll be helpful for you too. Let's dive into some big mistakes, some mistakes that I just see people making over and over and over again. And every single time I'm like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. First and foremost, not being social on social media. There is a reason it's called social media. You must be social. What does that mean? That means when you post something on LinkedIn and somebody takes time to comment on it, you should respond to that person. So I used a screenshot here of Julie. Julie posted something on LinkedIn. You can tell because when she comments on her own post, you will see a dark gray bar that says author. It means the author of the post is commenting on the post. So she gets a comment from Susan. She answers it. She gets a comment from Adam. She answers it. Social media is just that, social. When people talk to you, you have to talk back. That's kind of the way it works. So that is one thing that I always see people, they sometimes like ghost people. Like they do these posts, and I get it. Sometimes like, the dog's puking, the kids are crying. You don't have time until like 2 days later to respond. That's okay. Just respond 2 days later. Respond when you can. But the point about social media is just that. Be social. Respond to people when they have comments, when they write you messages. It's really, really important to keep up that social aspect. Number 2, mistake I see all the time, trying only one format. The good and the bad thing about LinkedIn is they have lots of different formats, lots of different options for you. You can do polls on LinkedIn. You can do posts that just have written content. You can do posts that have pictures. You can do video posts. You can do newsletters. You can do document uploads. The list goes on. And sometimes when I am talking with teams or working with people, they'll say, oh, Kim, we can't make it work. Can't make it work. And I'll look through and I'll be like, well, you're only doing written posts. Like, have you tried anything else? Have you tried a poll? Have you tried pictures? Have you tried documents? Have you tried carousels? And they'll be like, oh no, we didn't try that. And again, it kind of makes me giggle because again, if you had a child and you put that child into basketball and then they said, oh, I don't really like basketball, would you fling up your hands and go, that's it, no sports for my kid, no sports today? No, you'd be like, okay, he or she doesn't like basketball. Maybe it's karate, maybe it's volleyball, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's taekwondo, maybe it's fencing, maybe it's football, right? There's lots of other sports. You try a different sport and see if there was something they like. So that's another mistake I see. There's so many different ways of posting and sharing on LinkedIn. Try a different one. Change it up. The last mistake that I see all the time is what I like to call going to bat one time, which is a little bit of a baseball term as we just talked about sports, but it means only trying one time. People put so much pressure on doing a post that, I did a post and it only got 2 likes. Oh, I did a post and it only got 5 likes. Oh, I did a post and I only got 1 comment. You have to go to bat so many times. You're going to strike out so many times. I took a screenshot here of my analytics of all of my impressions over the past year, and I am going up to bat anywhere between 3 and 5 days a week. I am posting on LinkedIn 3 to 5 times a week. So listen, they're not all going to be home runs. We're going to have some strikeouts. We're going to have some stuff that just doesn't hit, but it doesn't mean you stop going to bat. You got to keep going to bat over and over again. So again, I'm trying to stuff as much as I can into this mini workshop, but there is a lot more that I have to offer when it comes to sharing your content online. So if you would like that, there is a QR code and there is also a LinkedIn learning course that is absolutely free. and it is stuffed full of my tips and tricks when it comes to sharing your knowledge online. You can watch it absolutely for free over at LinkedIn Learning. You just have to search my name, Kim Kalp, or you can scan this QR code and it will pull up the videos for you to watch and dive into this a little bit more. Additionally, I would love to keep helping you and keep finding you here on LinkedIn. I would love for you to follow me on the platform or press that little bell on my profile so that you can see all of the content and videos and helpful tips that I am putting out. You would be surprised how many emails and messages I get from people like, I didn't know that you were doing this mini workshop, or I didn't get this tip that somebody told you about. And I always say, like, do you have that bell pressed? And then they say no. And then I say, well, unfortunately, I don't have control over the LinkedIn algorithm. I wish I did. I wish that it would always show up. That is the only way that I know to make sure that my tips are getting from me to you, is if you press that bell. I wish I had a magic wand. I do have a little Harry Potter wand here. Unfortunately, the Harry Potter wand does not work on LinkedIn. So the only way I know how is to make sure that you are pressing that little bell. And then last but not least, we do this every single week at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can go to getcoffeewithkim.com to get the full schedule. But boy, do we have a jam-packed April for you. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, resilience, with expert Jan Rutherford. And we are going to be doing a quick confidence mini workshop with Selena Rezvani. She is such a standout all-star. You are going to absolutely love her if you don't know her already. And it's not on here, but I'll give you a little sneak peek. We're also going to be doing a special mini workshop session on Chat GPT. I'm getting a lot of rumblings of people being like, what is Chat GPT? How do I work with Chat GPT? What are the possibilities of Chat GPT? So I have found an expert, Dave Burris, who is going to come on and teach us all about Chat GPT in a way that like a kindergartner can understand, which is my kind of speed. So you are going to want to join that in April. You can go over to getcoffeewithkim.com and be notified of all the links. So it was so great to join you. Big thanks to Elizabeth and Andrew and Christopher and, oh my goodness, Nadia. We had so much fun today. This was so good. And Kelly, I'm glad you're excited because I'm excited. This is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. If you have comments, questions, thoughts, follow-ups, you know where to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on any platform of your choice. You can find me at Kim Kalp. I'm there on every platform. Have a wonderful rest of the week, my friends, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye.